Assalamu alaikum. So today we are going to do the second part of our lecture. There was the added function of the employee. We are already done with the add lecturer, the delete and the search. Now we are going to do the added lecturer. So for now we have controller class of the lecturer with all the required functions in it, the model class of the lecturer, and the database that contains the linked list where we have all the data stored. And in main screen I have a design for the add lecturer, delete lecturer, search lecturer. I've just added another JPanel, set its layout to absolute layout, its name to edit lecturer, and I've designed it something like this. So according to our assumptions, only nationality, salary, and department are the three things that are updatable, that a user can change. So how it will work, my user will enter a particular employee ID and search for its current data. All the current data will appear here, right here, in text field or in labels. Then my user say update data. After changing whatever, if he wants to change the salary or department or whatever he wants to change, he will update the data right here in the text fields and then say update data. And then the data should be updated. And how we will confirm the data has been updated? We will go to the search lecturer tab and we will search for that particular employee and we will see if its data has been updated successfully or not. So go back to the edit lecturer. So what I have done here till now, I have designed this, given it certain names, txt employee ID, txt name, etc. I have set these name, email, degree, and domain to uneditable, right? See, their editables are false, which means my user cannot edit them. My user can only edit nationality, salary, and department. So the very first thing that we need to do is whenever my user enters a particular employee ID right here and clicks on search employee, it should give me some the data of the employee right here. So we have already coded this part in our search lecturer. So we are just going to be replicating our code to some extent. So I'm going to say search employee and I have an event handler of mouse clicked, which is at line 426. I have already generated it. Now I'm going to write the code for that particular event handler. So the very first thing that we need to do in this particular event handler is if my user has actually entered some employee ID in my txt field. So this is what I'm going to check first. Say txt employee ID edit panel dot get text dot is empty. If the text field text is empty, which means my user has not entered anything, I will print a option pane dot show message dialog. Now saying that empty text field or maybe empty data or something and required to have an employee ID, right? Or something. Required to have an employee ID. And next I'm saying the J option should be of type error message. And that's it. That means an error message will be shown whenever my user has not entered anything in my text field. But if my user has entered some text in my text field, then I need to get that employee ID and set that employee and send that employee ID to my controller class by using its object, that is lect. So I'm going to say lect.set employee ID to txt, whatever employee ID has been my user has written in this. So get text. So once this employee ID is communicated to my controller, now I need to get the data. So I already have an function that we did in our search, that is that get data, which was returning us all the data in a lecturer object. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a lecturer temp object and I'm going to say it's equals to lect dot get data. So against this lect and this particular employee ID, get the data. So whatever the data is being sent it is been taken from the my main database, will be saved into the temp. Here I'm going to check if my temp is not equals to null. If temp is not null, then here the to do is print data in label then text, right? But what if my temp is null? That means whether this ID did not existed in my databases, it was invalid or something, right? Or maybe if temp is null, then that means my connection to my database has not been established, or there's something wrong is there. So I'm going to say J. So instead of writing the code again, I'm just going to copy it from here, and I'm going to say copy, and I'm going to paste it in my else, and I'm going to say that this is the operation failed, operation failed, and I'm going to say incorrect ID or connection interrupted, right? So one of the others, one or the other. So right, we have our flow. So now we need to do this. So if my data is correct, if my ID is correct, I need to set that particular data. So I'm going to set my data one by one. So the very first thing is name. So I have txt name ep for added panel. So set the txt field of name in the ep panel to set text to whatever this temp is giving us, get name, right? Whatever the name this temp has, set it to that. Now lbl age of ep panel dot set text to age plus whatever temp runs me as an age, temp dot get age. Now for gender, I need to see if temp dot is gender. So if my is gender is returning me true, then that means it's a female, otherwise it's a male. So I'm going to say lbl gender ep dot set text, and I'm going to say gender is female, else the gender will be male, right? So female, and otherwise it will be a male. So the gender is done. Now next thing, the degree. So txt degree ep dot set text to temp dot get degree. Next was department, txt depart ep dot set text to temp dot get, sorry, get department, right here. Next one is domain. So txt domain of ep dot set text to temp dot get domain, txt email p dot set text to temp dot get email, txt nationality ep dot set text to temp dot get nationality. The last one that is remaining is salary. Salary is remaining. So txt salary dot set text to temp dot get salary. Of course, it's returning in, so we need to concatenate it with the empty string. So right now, this should work. This should give us all the data in our text fields and labels. So let's see if it's working right or not. So I'm executing it right here. So let's see, it's employee one, the nationality is this, it's 2000, the email is apc@gmail.com, employee ID is 1234, department CS, MS, remain SC. So I say add employee. The employee has been added. Go to the edit lecturer, search for 1234. Search, and yes, it's giving me. The only thing that I need to change is resize this gender label so that it shows me complete female. So right now you see if from this SF I can say it's American or maybe any other nationality. From salary I can increase the salary. From this department I can actually say change the department or something, right? Or maybe park or something. And when my user clicks on the update data, then this data should get updated in my backend. Okay, so first of all, let's resize it and code this update data. So I'm going to close it, go to my design. This here I have gender. So we have updated gender. Let's just be on the safer and to resize the age as well. Now in the update data. So as soon as my user clicks on update data, mouse clicked. So as soon as I click on the mouse update data, click so the data should be updated at the backend. So let's control X from here and let's write the code in the event handler item. So I have a certain employee ID which is above in the text field. So I'm going to say like dot set employee ID and set this employee ID to whatever my user has right now in txt employee ID at panel dot get text. Of course, the only three things that are changeable is nationality. So set nationality to txt nationality ep dot get text, right? Okay, set the salary like dot set salary, and because the salary is in integer, so we will need to parse to integer dot parse integer, and the string will be txt salary ep dot get text. Okay, we have nationality, salary, employee ID, and what else could be changeable? It was department. So we are going to say we are going to write the code for department as well. So I'm going to say like dot set department, whatever my user has right now in txt depart ep dot get text field. So right now I have communicated all the data, the nationality, the salary, the department, which are editable to my controller class of the lecturer. Now I need to add a function which says updates. So I need to say let dot update. So there has to be a function of update in my let class. So I'm simply going to say on this create method update in type lecturer. So the method has been created. Now I just need to update this particular data in forward this particular data in my model class and tell my model class to actually update this data. So I just simply need to call the function. I'm simply going to say let model dot set employee ID is equals to whatever this dot get in this employee ID is right now. Let model dot set salary this dot salary let model dot set department this dot department, and similarly let model dot set nationality to this dot nationality, right? So everything has been done. Now I just need to say let I'm forwarding this data. I have communicated this data to my model class of lecturer. Now you just need to ask my model to update this particular data. So there has to be a function of update in my model class because there is not currently. So I'm just going to say create a method update in type lecturer. So the method has been created. Now I just need to call this particular method. Of course, I know that this particular employee ID exists because my search function has actually given me a data of the employee. So that means this particular employee does exist. But just to be on the safer end, because this is very much possible that after the search my user has deleted this particular employee, and then if he's clicking on update employee. So just to be on the safer end, we are going to search this particular employee once again. So I'm going to search if db dot search. So I'm going to say if db dot, because we already have a search, this dot employee id. So search the db for this particular employee id, and if my db is actually returning me true, that means this particular employee id exists and I need to update it. Here the to do will be updated, right? But else if it is not doing me that, then we need to do something like return return sorry return null or flag, right? So to do this, this update has to be of maybe type of boolean, so that I can pass it true or false. So I'm here returning it false. So false here will indicate indicator of failed operation, that this particular operation was actually failed. So, and here because I have the data, I just need to update it. So here after the update, I will simply return the true. So now to update this data, I need to say db dot update, and in update I will pass my this object, because this object contains all the values. It contains the employee id, the nationality, the salary, and everything, right? So I'm saying db dot update this. Of course there is no function of update in db, so I will simply create a method in db as well. So it has created a method in my db with an object of lecturer m, which will be passed from the model class. Now I need to update this particular data. So I'm just going to copy this particular code that we did in the last lecture for get data, because this was the code that was searching for a particular employee ID in my whole linked list, and it was actually getting the index where the employee ID or was same. So I'm just going to copy this for loop, and I'm going to just edit it a bit. So I'm going to say go through the whole linked list of the lecturer. So the lecturer list dot get I dot get employee ID if it's equals to, and I'm simply going to say like list dot get I dot get employee ID dot get equals. Let's rename it to obj. A shorter will be good. So I'm going to simply say obj dot get employee ID. So whatever the employee ID this object contains, search for that employee ID in the whole linked list. So if you have found the link, this particular employee ID in this particular linked list, then simply do this. Whatever the indexed that contains this particular employee ID, change its nationality, salary, and the department, right? So I'm going to select list dot get I dot get dot set department to whatever this obj dot get department contains, right? Similarly, let test dot get I dot set salary to whatever this obj dot get salary contains. And similarly, the last thing is nationality. Like list dot get I dot set nationality obj dot get nationality. So once this is done, that means my update is completed and I do not need to look for in my linked list further. So I will simply say break this for loop right here and end this function. So this will break right here, and my lecturer m will update and return me true. Of course, this return true is right here, and I need to communicate this return to my view as well. So I'm returning it boolean here. So whatever my model class returns, whether it's true or false, return my controller class will return that as well to my view class. So in my view class, I'm adding a, so I'm going to say if let dot update gives me true, which means the operation has been successful, and else the operation has been failed. So I'm just going to add the appropriate J option methods. So I'm just going to copy the code from here. Copy. So because in else, in case it has returned false, I will say operation failed, or I can say right here employee ID no longer exists, and right here I'm going to maybe say operation successful or something, maybe, or okay, let's see, data update successful. So what is so data, okay, data updated successfully, and here we are going to say operation, and here because it's no longer an error message, so maybe we will say it's an information message. Okay, let's see if it works right now. So I'm going to execute it right here. So let's first add an employee into one. The nationality is SF. The salary is 20,000. Email is abc@gmail.com. Employee ID 1234, of course. Department is CS. Degree is MS. Domain is SC, and I'm saying add employee. Employee has been searched. Go to the edit employee 1234. Search and employee 1, 25, female SF, 20,000, and so on and so on. Right? So I have all the data. So my user is going to click on update employee. So my user is saying update employee, and here I have operation completed, data updated successfully, but we didn't actually update anything, so I'm going to update the SF to maybe AM, this to 500, and this to W. And now let's see update data, and it says operation completed, update data updated successfully. Go to the search and see 1234, search, and here salary is 500, nationality AE. So if I'm going to edit once again, I'm going to say it's EP, let's say, and update data. So it's giving me operation completed successfully. Go to the search for it again, and it's giving me the EP, right? So actually my data is being updated. Fine. Okay, but there's one mistake in this. So let me close it, re-execute it. So if I'm right here and I'm adding a particular employee, some nationality, some salary, some email, some employee ID, some department, some degree, some domain, and I'm saying add employee. In edit, my user is not adding any employee ID or something. It's simply clicking on update data. It gives me a whole queue. The reason is because currently my lecturer my user has not entered any employee ID right here, and I have not added any check of update data that says that for this update data these three fields must need to contain something, right? One of these fields needs to contain something. These three fields cannot be empty for my update data, so we need to add this check right here. So I'm going to stop the execution, and I'm just going to say in the mouse click before doing and these whole things, just add a check. If txt nationality ep dot get text dot is empty, if this particular text is not empty, which means the nationality field does contain something, double end txt. I'm going to do the same for the other fields. Dot get text dot is empty, double end last for the last field. Txt depart ep dot text dot is empty. So if all of these text fields are not empty, only then do all of this. Only then do all of this. But if any one of them is actually empty, then give some type of error message. Maybe like this, give this error message. This error message will be operation failed, missing data, right? Missing data. So we have two labels, LBL EGP dot set text will go back to the age. Similarly, LBL gender dot set text will go back to the gender. Next, we have txt name dot set text to empty string. Txt name is done. Next, we have txt degree dot set text to empty field. Txt degree is done. Domain dot set text to empty. Next, txt employee email dot set text to empty string. Txt nationality dot set text to empty string, and txt salary dot set text to empty. And now we are done actually. So let's see if it works right now. So I'm adding a particular employee. So let's say employee ID is 15678 and department is CS, data MS, domain SC. I say add employee. So you see the data has been clear. Now let's search for this employee ID. So the data has been searched, and if I say this is SFE and I say update, so the data, okay, we didn't actually have the department. We have missed the department here. Yeah, we have missed the, right, we have name, degree, domain, we have missed the department here. So if we are the department, it will be updated there as well. So 5678 search, and the nationality has been updated. So similarly, if I search it again, the nationality, you can make it ABC, you can make it 28, and you can change the department, whatever, right? Whatever. Update and go to these. Of course, operation completed. Okay, search, and everything is updated. Of course, if you delete it right here, if you say 578 and you say delete employee, so it's giving me that the deletion has been successfully. So if I search it now, search employee, so it's giving me an error that is saying operation failed. Similarly, in edit, if I search for it again, it's giving me an error which means operation failed. Okay, so what we need to do, we just have to add some txt depart. Okay guys, this was a very basic, a very beginner level employee management system, just to get an idea of how the communication is being done between view controller and controller to model and model to our external database. In this particular, we have a linked list as per of our database, but in actual we will have some database going on at the back end. So just remember that there are so many updates that we can do in this particular code and this particular system. This is not a full-fledged system. I repeat, this is not a full-fledged system. So hope this works. If you have any queries, feel free to text me. Goodbye. Allah Hafiz.